What did you just get us into?
Guess I'll just have to come clean.
What if we make you a boyfriend?
You want to hack into my dad's secure network and build me some high-def boyfriend? You better sleep over.
There is no version of the logical universe where my sister should have a boyfriend.
We're going to homecoming!
But Dad!
How to build a better boy.
Hello Internet, and welcome to the DCOM review. Today, we'll be taking a closer look at the second half of Paul Hoen's very busy 2014 with How to Build a Better Boy. Now, if you've seen any of my other reviews, you'll know that I have nothing but love for the man, the myth, the legend, Paul Hoen. And even though I don't even know what his voice sounds like, he always finds a way to speak to me through his films. How to Build a Better Boy is another one of his movies that intentionally allows events to play out naturally, without being overly explicit as to what the events mean thematically or metaphorically. But does it live up to the high standard that his previous movies have set? And I'll throw the spoiler warning here in case you haven't seen the movie yet and want to go in fresh. With all that said, let's dive into How to Build a Better Boy. The movie, interestingly enough, begins with a flash forward, a rare technique in DCOMs. Basically, it's flashing forward to a scene where our two lead characters are being arrested by the United States government. How's that for an entrance? This movie is 2 minutes in and already promises to be like nothing we've ever seen before. Our leads in this movie are Gabby Harrison, portrayed by China Anne McClain, and May Hartley, portrayed by Kelli Berglund. They play two incredibly intelligent 10th graders that have all kinds of plans and aspirations to do great things with their life in the future. There's already a lot of great things to say about our leads, but I'll save most of that for the character analysis. We find out that May has a crush on Jaden. Nope, not that Jaden. Ha! I wish! No, it's this Jaden, portrayed by Noah Centineo, your average ordinary popular jock who May, of course, has a crush on. I assume most of you never sat through this brain cell killing nightmare, so it's probably your first introduction to Ashley Argota, who plays Nevaeh in this movie. She plays the role of mean girl because, well, someone has to, as she publicly humiliates May for assuming Jaden would ask her to homecoming. The setup is kind of perfect if you've seen Invisible Sister, because then you know that there's a part near the opening of that movie, also directed by Paul Hoen, where Rowan Blanchard's character makes a comment about how cliche the whole nerd-jock romance is. Likely a subtle reference to this movie. Well played, Paul. Well played. So, in her panic, May invents a fake boyfriend named Albert and gets Nevaeh off her case, but there are more than a few doubters of her claim. But Gabby helps May cover up her story by inventing a fake boyfriend profile featuring all the characteristics that May would want in the ideal boy. Long story short, the list is long but actually very sensible, all things considered, but unbeknownst to our protagonist is the fact that Gabby actually hacked into Dr. Hartley's company computers to create Albert. They're both under the impression that the technology they're using is from his high-tech gaming company, but he actually works for the US Department of Defense designing weapons, such as their latest invention. Yep, you guessed it. Artificial intelligence. Creating Albert causes Dr. Hartley's home computers to fry, which May's brother Bart, played by Matt Shively, has to fix in exchange for going to homecoming with Gabby. Much to the shock of May and Gabby, the very next day, Albert, portrayed by Marshall Williams, appears at their school, ready to sweep May off her feet.
Baby, I'm perfect for you.
He's literally everything that Gabby and May program him to be, in addition to having all kinds of superhuman abilities because, again, he's a robot. Or an android? Or maybe a cyborg, or who really knows. But the Department of Defense is trying to track Albert down while he keeps finding new ways to woo May, including what I thought was an amazing rendition of Love You Like a Love Song, which he sings to May before asking her to homecoming. The Albert situation, however, is causing a bit of a void to grow between Gabby and May. Eventually, Bart figures out that Albert is actually a weapon Dr. Hartley has been developing for the Pentagon, and to make matters worse, an arms group called Black Sigma is after Albert as well. I'll just get these guys out of the way now. They just might be the most incompetent villains I have ever seen, and that's saying something. No, really. These guys are trying to steal from the United States of America, and these guys don't look like they could steal from a vending machine and get away with it. Needless to say, they get caught thanks to their own stupidity at a football game, yada yada yada, after hilariously failing to capture Albert, etc., and that's the end of them. The power outage they create at said football game, however, shorts out Albert's circuits, and with that, the US Army captures Albert and apprehends both May and Gabby. May is of course unhappy with the idea of being told to forget about Albert while he's off doing important missions, but Albert eventually returns, since his original mission, which he mentions several times in the movie, is to give May the perfect kiss at homecoming. The army is initially reluctant to let this all happen, but Dr. Hartley, wanting his daughter to be happy, convinces them otherwise. So we get homecoming because every DCOM has its dance, and everything happens exactly how you'd expect. Jaden eventually dumps Nevaeh, May wins homecoming queen somehow, and Albert and May dance the night away happily ever after. Or do they? Breaking from tradition here, the big moment actually doesn't happen, since May realizes that even though the moment is perfect, it doesn't feel right. And honestly, that's a really great lesson. Love isn't perfect, it's heavily flawed, but it's being able to work through those flaws that lets you know that you're with someone special. So May acquiesces with Albert's wish to self-destruct, and that's what he does, fading off into the moonlight, much to the amazement of the student body. Jaden finally asks May out like he wanted to the whole time, Gabby is dating Bart, and, most vitally, Gabby and May are best friends again. And now, the characters. I originally thought this movie was going to focus on China Anne McClain's character Gabby a whole lot more, since I had never heard of Kelli Berglund before this movie. At the beginning, it seemed like it might do that since Gabby was definitely the leader of the duo, but then took a major shift by focusing on all the emotions May was going through. I think Gabby is a solid character, both intelligent and driven, a powerful combination, and something more people, not just girls, should aspire to be as far as I'm concerned. China does well here, being the reasonable one that tries to fix everything while her best friend is going gaga over the big metal man. But at the same time, even though I'm way more familiar with China from her Ant Farm days, as well as leading my favorite Disney Channel games team, I found myself connecting more to May, but we'll save her for last. Matt Shively as Bart Hartley is pretty enjoyable to watch. I thought he was just over the top enough to not be annoying, and I think towing that line is extremely hard to do, and it varies for everyone based on their sense of humor, but he got some laughs out of me. I'm really glad that Bart is actually an intelligent character who can fix computers and knows technology, because we've basically got an entire cast of people who have good heads on their shoulders. Dr. Hartley, well, there isn't too much to say about him, other than the fact that he designs weapons for the US Department of Defense, and even though he's brilliant, he's also a loving father who genuinely cares for his children. It's no secret that the main cast is smart, but I also love that they aren't complete stereotypes either. I love the fact that you can have a movie like this where people are competent, but can also be ambitious or goofy or secretly working for the government. It adds a lot of depth that other movies simply don't provide. Jaden and Nevaeh are your standard pairing of jock who is secretly nice and mean girl who is very mean. Jaden is okay, I guess, but he doesn't really leave much of an impression on me. I think Adam DeMarco's character from Radio Rebel provides one of the best examples of popular guys done right. But that really wasn't the focus of this movie, so it's not really that bad a thing. Ashley Argota plays a very convincing mean girl, considering she plays a really nice girl in Bucket and Skinner, but she's kind of wasted here too. To use one of my own expressions, both of them are really just here to fill a roster spot of boy crush and mean girl. Alright, let's get to Albert himself. I think Marshall Williams does a really good job here of portraying exactly the personality traits that were programmed into him. He does his job and always comes across as the literal interpretation of the perfect boyfriend, but since he's also technically a government weapon, he knows how to defend himself as well. Arnold Schwarzenegger works well as the Terminator because he's good at giving you that stoic mission-first persona. Albert works well here for the opposite reason, because he's programmed to be a boyfriend, which means always being happy and charming and saying exactly the right thing. He's completely unreal, and that's the point, which is exactly why I think he's played well here. And finally, Kelli Berglund, who I think is undeniably this movie's all-star. Yes, she's intelligent, but here's an interesting thing. She doesn't want that to overly define her. Usually when movie characters want to break off and do something more, they're defying convention, but having a movie led by two genius females is already unconventional in the best possible way. The point here is that she wants to experience normal things like romance and love and homecoming. It's a different take on a pretty standard idea. I think a lot of it stems from the fact that in this movie, she doesn't have a mother, meaning that she doesn't have an older female influence. Even though she values her smarts, it makes sense that she'd want to partake in more traditional feminine ideas as well, as possibly a way to feel more connected to the girl that she still very much is. Her acting supports every emotion she's going through as well, be it hopeful or excited or angry. You can feel everything she's going through, and even when you know she's wrong, I still find myself personally wishing she was right, just for the sake of her happiness. I felt like through this nearly 2-hour movie, I learned almost everything about her, and that's a sign of a great character arc. Kelly's wide-eyed enthusiasm and natural charm were perfect for the role of May, and she delivers a stellar performance. And that's How to Build a Better Boy. So, what's the verdict? This entire movie is supposedly about artificial intelligence alongside real intelligence, but it's actually more of a movie about humanity and being complete people. Being smart is great. I would argue that it's the best thing you can be, but it's not the only thing you have to be. If May used logic that she undoubtedly has tons of to deal with Albert's arrival, this movie would be a very short one. But she allows her emotions to take over, despite the fact that their situation doesn't make any sense before they figure it all out. And I, for one, cannot blame her. She's created the perfect boy. If I was creating the perfect girl, she'd probably look a lot like this girl, and yes, even this girl, and I would have acted exactly the same way. I could either think about it and explain it all away, or I could say, holy, my favorite Power Ranger wants to sweep me off my feet? I'm sold! But even if you wouldn't make that choice, it's still a powerful metaphor for choosing emotions over logic, and doing so, even though it may be wrong sometimes, makes you human, and not the perfect machine that Albert is. That's the difference, and that's why May eventually rejects Albert at the end of the movie in favor of Jaden. Jaden isn't perfect, he's only human. In fact, if he had actually asked May to homecoming like he wanted, we would have had a completely different movie. But, as I said, love doesn't mean much unless you can work with the flaws. A perfect relationship, just like a perfect boy or a perfect anything else for that matter, doesn't exist in real life, and it's only once May realizes that the movie can be brought to its conclusion. How to Build a Better Boy is a textbook example of how to build a better movie. It's smart both inside and out, it knows how to utilize nearly its entire cast, and its take-home message is a beautiful and extremely clever one about balancing sense with sensibility. It's by no means perfect. In fact, it's not even Paul Hohen's best movie. It's not exactly the most fun you'll have watching a DCOM, and it can get a bit stale at times with many pretty standard scenes and setups, and the conflicts never feel particularly challenging, and all those factors do hurt the film. But with everything this film is trying to say, and with everything it represents, I would definitely recommend it. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, help me out with the likes, subs, and don't forget to share it all over social media, and throw down your comments for what DCOM I should tackle next. Until then...
I love you like a love song, baby. I love you like a love song.